Charlie Parsons Boxing Social in association with William Hill and Empire Fight Store. Always a pleasure, Mr. Richard Farnan, usually training down here with you. We've been going back and forth. I've been saying, look, we need to do this interview. If I ain't 100% to be training, then I'm going to get down and do the interview. And here we are. Lovely to see you again. How are you, mate?
I'm really good, mate. It was good to see you come in with like a bake from Greg's or wherever it was, while we're trying to cut weight and stuff. Thanks for your support on that one.
Well, mate, I don't see you cutting weight, mate. I see your Instagram stories and you're enjoying yourself as well sometimes.
Hey, I don't need to anymore, do I? But yeah, I'm all right. I'm trim.
Yeah, you are. I'll be back soon. I look forward to being put through my paces. How's things?
Yeah, it's all good. Really good right now. Yeah, just it's lots of things are happening. It's exciting, and we're nice and busy, so I can't complain at all.
I was going to go into Jermaine Franklin first, but I just thought Poetsch, end of an era for him. We then saw him, I think now training to be a referee or something and doing a little bit of the stuff there. Just firstly, that last moment in Bristol, finished things with a bang, a win. A long-standing servant. People like this we need desperately in the sport. You've been with him throughout that whole journey. Yourself, your missus, posing for the cameras. Well, she was at least. What a career, and what a servant to British boxing.
Yeah, it's right. It was 10 years together. So I first was with Poetsch on his third fight. When he took a fight on the road for the very first time, it was a Sunday. We were down at the York Hall. I can't remember the geezer's name now that he fought, but he won on the road, and it was that was a turning point for Poetsch, going from the struggle of selling tickets to actually this is easier. I can actually just I can pick and choose the fights, go and fight as often as I want, don't have to sell a ticket, and I get paid. And look what happened over the last 10 years. Like, his career was absolutely incredible. He fought anyone and everyone. I had to hold him back a few times from some decisions he wanted to make on his own. Like, we're not taking that fight. But yeah, he's gained as a referee, because I think he's going to be fantastic as a ref now, but it's a loss as a journeyman, because unfortunately since lockdown there aren't as many journeymen around now, especially on the UK scene, and it's a real shame, because it's a dying art, and it really is an art. People that aren't educated in what...
Well, we often see the Americans, don't we? And they're always...
Do you know what happens when they pad an American record? They'll go into a local gym, and I get a gym fighter, get him a licence, boom, chuck him in. The kid thinks he's got an opportunity, so he literally goes for it. 9 out of 10 gets knocked out, But that's not the case here. People that don't understand what an away fighter's job is just can't get their head the fact that you actually lose, well, you must be crap. It's like, wow, no, because all these lads that are on the road, the experienced lads on the road, if they want to turn it on,
they're not getting stopped, and when they want to turn it on, they do turn it on.
They turn it on, and it's, at times it's bad for business, because the amount of times that Poetsch has won.
What I was going to say, and then all of a sudden you don't get the fights. Yeah, you've got about 6 weeks of no one wanting to fight you, and people pulling out.
Yeah, I mean we had some all his career when he's notched up a win, and then you just look at these kids and you go, this is ridiculous. You shouldn't be in the game if you can't beat an away fighter. Because you're deluding not only yourself, but you're also like ripping off your tickets when your fans are coming to see you. It's just it's false. But look, it's an end of the era. I was very privileged to travel all over the country and a few trips abroad with Poetsch. We've become very, very close, great mates, and we always will be. And we had a fantastic career for 10 years.
A happy but emotional end. Are you going to find yourself some Fridays and Saturdays when you're not in the corner of other fights and stuff, sat at home thinking, I'd probably be at some random show somewhere with Poetsch right now?
That's already happened.
Twiddling your thumbs thinking, fuck!
Yeah, what am I going to do now? Now, I've got a couple of lads that just going through the process with the board. I've got a heavyweight that's going to go on the road, and I've got another super middleweight that's just gone through the process. So, I'm still going to be out and about when I'm not in another corner somewhere.
It's just testament to you, really, Rich, and I suppose, as well as the fighters, we say, how much we need the people like Poetsch and stuff, but we desperately need the people like you as well. Because if it wasn't for someone like you, perhaps, Poetsch probably wouldn't have gone on to sort of do as many times as he has, and sort of you need sort of that bit of see you, brother.
Bye.
I'll tell you what. No. Just quickly said goodbye to Jamie Cox, who we will talk about in a minute. But yeah, just sort of what you've done on the road with some of these guys as well, probably making some of these opportunities that they wouldn't really be able to get a possibility. And, we do need people like you as well in boxing.
Yeah, I mean, I had a classic one a few years ago. We were due to fight on Saturday. can't remember for the life of me if the show was cancelled or our opponent pulled out on the Friday. I'm like, so I randomly just sent texts to matchmakers and that, everyone. And one of them I sent it to was Paul Reedy when he was at Matchroom.
Yeah.
And Paul literally, bearing in mind they just had the weigh, and he went, Rich, you've just read my mind. What timing this is? I think it was Ryan Aston, I think it was on the scales against weighing in against John Doherty. And as he was on the scales, the board pulled him, something to do with the medical. Now, get him off the scales, he can't fight. And literally, as that had come through, I text Paul and he went, "Do you get to Newcastle tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yeah, if you put us on a plane." Next thing, we're in Newcastle, and Poetsch did 6 rounds with John Doherty. You know, it's just like that. So sometimes it's being a little bit switched on about things, and just like doing what you should do as a manager. You know, you're trying to look after your fight. You're not putting them in at the deep end. You know, we looked at John. John was a fantastic boxer. He had a big punch on him. You know, he was quite a dangerous fighter, but it was a calculated risk because he didn't stop Daryl Sharp, and Daryl's a very, very good away fighter, and Poetsch is as good as Daryl. So I kind of thought he couldn't put Daryl away. Yeah. So the chances of him being able to put Poetsch away, I'll hedge my bets on it. Obviously, we got a good payday being last minute as well. But it was one of them I thought, yeah, do you know what? We'll take this one. Poetsch is always up for a fight with anybody. He never shied away from anyone. And did the 6 rounds. So
that sort of says it all, really. Yeah. You need sort of things like that, connections like that. And it keeps our sport blossoming, and I sort of hope. This is what I'm trying to do more in the Southwest, especially because it's certainly nice to sort of speak to you, I speak to Mark, and some of the characters that maybe the fans don't see firsthand, just how important and vital you guys are to boxing. Yeah. Actually round here.
Well, exactly, in the Southwest. I mean, God, I think I've probably done now way over 400 corners in a professional ring all over the world, from debutants to world champions. And like we used to say about Claressa, you know, probably the most decorated female fighter in history. So I'm very, very lucky to what I've done. But, you know, some coaches, not all, but some coaches turn their nose up to an away fighter having a journeyman. Oh, you just got journeyman. Yeah, maybe. But you ain't done 450 or nearly 455 corners, have you? You've done, 3 corners a year when you've got your prospect? You know, so I'd rather have the experience, because there's not a lot I haven't seen or dealt with now. All over the world. It's a case of, like, I'm really, really lucky in what I do, and I love what I do, so every day's a privilege.
Well, I do want to sort of divulge into some of that. Just quickly, before we go into that, Jamie Cox, readying him for his Bareknuckle debut. At first, when I first spoke to him and come in the gym, I just said, "You crazy motherfucker," but you know what, I respect it. Something that I've been speaking to whenever I mention it is, it's not the, I think this was the first thing you guys said to me, but it's not the 12 threes, you've got 5 twos. Yeah. Very, very explosive, a format that suits Jamie. Just seeing him there, explosive is an understatement. Yeah. Coming along now, 1 week to go. Excited?
Very, very excited. Yeah, it's 5 twos. So it is a sprint. It's not a marathon. You've not got time to take off. You can't give a round away. You've got to be on it. And it's also a different style of fighting, because you can't engage as much as what you engage in, like, pro boxing. So, because a bare knuckle hit in your face, 90% of the time is going to cut. And we can't afford to pick up the cuts. So we need to try and keep as clean as possible. So it's a case of, like, Jay loves a fight. He loves to get stuck in. He loves to have a row. And he's very, very dangerous because he punches so hard with either hand. But we've adjusted it for this fight, and we'll see if this works, which I believe it will work, because as you've seen, he's very fast, he's very explosive, and then his movement, everything is coming to fruition right now, just at the right time.
I mean, it's a no-brainer for the cell, really. I mean, you look at just how talented he was as an amateur and then a pro. I think he'll probably say maybe a little bit of a wasted career at times, but this is a real opportunity, get a win here and then become a world champion, and world is his oyster.
100%. I reckon within 3 fights he'll fight for the world title. Depends on how it goes against this first opponent. This first opponent's fought for the world title twice against the champion is Palomino, who's obviously is an accomplished fighter. But this guy's gone the distance with him twice, and one of them, according to him, was controversial because he believed he won it. Now, personally, if this fella sees the 3rd round, I'll be shocked. So it's down to Jay's management. If that happens, we've done a number on this kid that's done the distance twice with the world champion. We've got a massive argument to say, put it straight in with the world champ. You know, there's no point in having another fight. But, you know, if they turn around and say, we want you to have one more, we have one more, then hopefully we're in the States and we're challenging for that world title.
Exciting prospects. Can't wait to see it unfold. Jermaine Franklin, put in a good performance against Anthony Joshua. Not quite enough, but not many people expected it to go the distance. You were meant to do the corner, sort of a bit of last minute stuff. Didn't happen in the end. But you've done his corner before for the Dillian White fight. You know what he's about. Loads of people were saying ringside it's like watching Ruiz again in glimmers because he's just so hard, so durable, and then throws back in volumes. Not necessarily crazy powerful, but quick shots that you don't really see. Were you at all surprised about what we saw in there, or did you sort of expect it?
I kind of expected it because Jermaine, lots of people you see online are like not rating Jermaine. So who is he? He's fought no one. He's done this. He's done that. Well, I think when he came to the UK before he fought Dillian, he was 18-0 with 17 knockouts. Yeah, you go through there. There's no necessary names, but you're still knocking people out, like 96% knockout ratio, whatever it was. And then he gave Dillian hell. And I believe that fight potentially was a draw. If not, he could have nicked it, you know. And I'd said before, because when we was in the changing rooms afterwards, I turned around and said, this isn't so much of a negative. A good thing will come of this. And as it transpired, he got the AJ fight, which was fantastic for him. I saw differences in Jermaine this time. He seemed a lot sharper.
Lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, he was very, very fit. He was very, very lean. And he was quick. And like you say, Ruiz-ish, because he took a shot and he came straight back with shots, but he came back with 2s and 3s. You know, and I think that's why AJ sort of held back a little bit after he clocked him, because he clocked him with some beautiful shots. And the one thing, I know Jermaine was tough, but the one thing that did surprise me was how good his chin really was when he was getting caught clean. And it was, you know, because we all know that AJ whacks with both hands, and he took some right hands, bang on the button, and it sort of was, as soon as it lasted, he's firing straight back. The only thing I did kind of think was if AJ had followed those shots up, then he may well have done more damage.
So this is the argument and what I was going to go into. The AJ that a lot of us sort of come to terms with, and we talk about sort of the resurgence of British boxing. I know AJ done a lot on a grassroots level. We used to watch AJ go in there and there was no doubt that he'd knock someone out in 6 rounds. A lot of the talk that I done in the build-up was he's not knocked someone out in 6 rounds since Eric Molina. We see...
That ain't me.
That's not you. We see all these sort of speculations about the fights with Wilder and stuff, etc. Last couple of years or so, I suppose, since that Ruiz knockout loss, do you think potentially a little bit gun-shy now?
Yeah, I did think so. He looked a little bit nervous with what was coming back, but that's probably understandable. I actually think, I know he got a lot of stick on. I thought he boxed really well.
Yeah, I thought he boxed well.
Yeah.
I just think some people...
Some people just overcritical.
Yeah, but at the same time... You know, like to put yourself straight in. He is an elite heavyweight, but to sort of push, you got to sort of try and get the knockout, I suppose.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. You know, it's the heavyweight scene at the end of the day, and it's that excitement scene. It's the case of like you take risks.
Compare him to the AJ of the past.
Well, yeah, but and I get it, and I see it, and everything. And you're right, and some people what they've said is correct. It is the heavyweight scene. He is, or certainly was, an elite heavyweight. So you are expecting him, because we know he's got power in both hands, of getting rid of everybody. Yeah. But I actually thought, apart from I did think there was a little bit of gun shyness there, but I actually thought it was a very disciplined and a very technically better AJ on this time. So I could see what some people were saying when there was sort of wanting more, but also saw it from a boxing technicality point of view and said, do you know what, he controlled that fight really well. And at times, yeah, he didn't want to get too involved and whatever, and you look at it as a fan and think that's disappointing, because if you do let your hands go in clusters after you've landed one, you probably can get this kid out of here. But he didn't, and we have to accept that. And he got the win. It was a good win. On to the next one, whatever and wherever that will be.
And also, regardless of, you know, what anyone thinks of that performance or any performance, the second fight with Usyk, he was considerably better. It was very narrow in the end. Probably could have gone either way from about the 9th or the 10th. So realistically, still an elite level fighter, still probably overly disrespected. And yeah, I suppose that brings me on to the next thing. Simon Jordan has heard whispers, and I imagine you would have seen it, of this seems like some mad fatal 4-way out in Saudi Arabia. Deontay Wilder against Anthony Joshua, with Alexander Usyk fighting Tyson Fury. Now, I almost ask these questions, and I always say, like, do we get a little bit tedious of talking about it? Because it's, for years, we've been talking about these mega fights. Fury, AJ, AJ Usyk was always easy to make, but AJ Wilder, exactly, for back and forth for years. We're in the same position again. We can hope, but maybe not get too optimistic.
Nah, not at all. I can't see that happening whatsoever. There's too many other factors involved.
Oh, yeah.
You've got 4 different promoters. You've got 3 different broadcasters. You know, I think it's too political, too much of a mess for everybody to all come together, all agree, and all go, yeah, let's get it done. I just cannot see that happening.
One thing I will say, if anyone can do it, it's probably the Saudis.
The Saudis could definitely afford to do it, and I think, again, I'm not going to blow smoke up his ass, but if any promoter can pull it off, it would be Eddie. But you're dealing with Shelley Finkel, you're dealing with Bob Arum, you're dealing with Frank Warren, as well as you're dealing with Tyson Fury. You know, it would be. There's a lot of characters, and it's a lot of stubbornness, and I think it would just be far too difficult to negotiate and get it across the line. It's a shame, because can you imagine? It would be incredible. Oh, yeah. It would be incredible. But
dream. Rich, I don't want to keep you for too long. Mark's, I think, probably waiting for me at this point now, and I know that we could natter forever, but just on some of the experiences throughout your career, I know from the first time I ever met you, I couldn't believe the sheer amount of corners you'd done. You mentioned earlier, 450 or something. Done Claressa Shields for years, Hannah Rankin for years, doing Chev Clark coming up. The list goes on. Sort of any one or two or a couple of moments. I'll give you one. We were watching Shields Marshall. I told you about this. And my missus goes, "Is that Farnan?" Yeah. So, you know, you're always there somewhere.
Oh, yeah, the Claressa story is an outstanding one. So when I first met Claressa, I was in her opponent's corner. I brokered the deal between Hannah Gabriels against Claressa Shields, their first fight. Obviously, the second fight's now been just announced. So I negotiated that fight on behalf of Hannah's manager, Hector Cordova, with Dimitri Salita. And then that's how I got to know Dimitri, how I got to know Mark Taffet, who are promoter and management for Claressa. So I got that one over the line. We was in Detroit, it's a mad one, in Detroit, doing Hannah's cuts. Sat right behind me is Tommy Hearns. It's just like you turn around, walking down steps, there's Thomas Hearns sitting there. Wow, that's very surreal. So we did that one. Then after that one, very next fight, I negotiated for Hannah Rankin to fight Claressa Shields again. That was over in Kansas. So I've gone over there, and like Clarissa's given me the look and went, "Why are you always in the opposite corner to me?" After that fight, Hannah and Claressa became quite good friends. Yeah. Then Claressa came over to the UK to do a thing. They was down at Churchill's, and I popped in to say hello. And it was so funny. She was like taking a class. As she's taking the class, she's walking towards the door. I'm stood in the door with my missus. And she's looking at me, and she's giving me this glare. She looked at me and went, "What are you doing here?" I was just like, "How are you?" And she laughed and she said, you are my frenemy. Yeah. We're friends, but I've seen you as my enemy, blah, 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 blah. And then when the original date for the Savannah fight, which was supposed to be the September the year before, when that fell through, I got contacted by Mark Taffet and asked, would I be available to work Claressa's corner when she's in the UK for her cuts? Well, absolutely, yeah. Then that fell through. Then it was the Emma Kozin fight on the Williams Eubank Jr. undercard. They asked, will you come and do the cuts on that? So that was the first time I joined the team. And then the Marshall fight happened, and again, I was asked to be part of the squad then. So, yeah, from being opposite her twice to being in a corner as a cutman.
Well, a story that I absolutely love, and a character that I love, because I look at what's going on around here and I always say there's not loads going on for boxing, so when I see characters like yourself and this gym, very, very nice to see. Richard, I'll hopefully be back in on Monday, Tuesday. Maybe punch him, maybe not, depending on how I'm feeling. We'll do another one of these. We'll chat forever. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the list goes on. The list goes on. Richard Farnan, thank you very much for speaking to us at Boxing Social. Final message, Jamie Cox, next week, 22nd, Bareknuckle FC. There's a lot going on next week on the 22nd. But if you get a chance, definitely watch it and roll back the years.
Tune in and don't blink. Simple as that.